بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم ألهمنا مراشد أمورنا وأعذنا من شرور أنفسنا. In the first page of Surah Al-Baqarah, Almighty Allah explains ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابِ, that the acceptance of the dua of mankind, اهدنا الصراط المستقيم, that, O Allah, allow us to walk on a straight path, a path which will take us straight into paradise. Immediately after that, Almighty Allah explained that on this path many started. غَيْرِ الْمَغْضُوبِ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا الضَّالِّينَ. There were others also who got a unique kitab, a unique book. There were others also who were given a guide. Knowledge had also reached them. They had started on this path, but it was not meant for everyone to reach the end of this path. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم was, O Allah, show us the path, guide us on the path, take us till the end. Let it not be that along the journey you become angry with us, al-maghdub alayhim. Neither we follow the wrong person and we go far from the path in ignorance. Almighty Allah explained, ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابِ, this Quran is that book. But it was also explained, يُضِلُّ بِهِ كَثِيرًا, with this very book some will be guided, some will be misguided. In the first few pages of Surah Al-Baqarah, Almighty Allah showed that what were the Bani Israel, the children of Nabi Yaqub alayhi salatu wassalam, the progeny, a progeny which had Anbiya alayhi salatu wassalams in numbers we cannot imagine. They were given divine scriptures. They had unique awliya amongst them. They saw the miracles of the Anbiya. Nabi after Nabi would come to them. What were they missing that made them fall from such a high pedestal? وَأَنِّي فَضَّلْتُكُمْ عَلَى الْعَالَمِينَ, I have given you honor over mankind at large. And they fell to a pedestal where it was mentioned the curse of Almighty Allah will now fall upon this group. In the first few pages of Surah Al-Baqarah, Almighty Allah indicated that they were missing the quality of shukr on the gifts of Almighty Allah. And the greatest gift being the deen that reached them. They regarded it as a burden. They would say to Nabi Musa alayhi salatu wassalam, we saw difficult times before you came. After you came, you also got difficult times. Because they could not appreciate the gift that had come to them. The difficulties that go with the gift, they were not going to be ready to bear. In the next few pages of the first juz of Surah Al-Baqarah, Almighty Allah now shows that one is the quality of shukr which they're supposed to have had, to be appreciative of the unique gift of deen that had reached them, which had not gone to majority of mankind. And in that appreciation of that gift, the demand of that appreciation was something what we call today Islam. Many of us understand Islam to be the name of a religion. Islam actually means total submission to the will of someone else. For us it is total submission to Almighty Allah in appreciation of the gift that He had given us of a deen. Majority of the world around us, they will not ever see the need to submit to a higher power, because they are not appreciative of the gift that they got of guidance, because they do not have guidance. In darkness you will not thank anyone who has given you darkness. It is the one who has given light, who falls in so much of appreciation to the one who brought light, that in that appreciation, if the Master, if the Creator, if the Almighty Allah asks, that we go against our inner passions. We are hungry for some food, but it is the month of Ramadan. My inside says I want, my Allah said no. A person wants to look at someone of the opposite sex. There is an inclination, he wants to talk, he wants to message. He finds the world around him is a world of freedom. No one is stopping them. No one is stopping them because they do not have to be in appreciation of a mightier power for the light that they were given, because they have no light. As for the one who got a light, it is the demand of shukr that he falls in front of Almighty Allah. When Almighty Allah would ask, then he would give. When Almighty Allah would command, he would obey. Whether his inside would be wanting to or not wanting to, it was the demand of Islam. In the few pages that we will go through now, Almighty Allah indicates in various verses towards this. The half of the first juz of the Quran begins, وَإِذْ أَخَذْنَا مِيثَاقَ بَنِي إِسْرَائِيلَ لَا تَعْبُدُونَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ. Remember that we also took a promise from the Bani Israel, that after ad-deen had reached them, they also had to submit, which was called Islam. In that submission is a submission of your aqidah, your belief. لَا تَعْبُدُونَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ. You will not worship except Allah. There was submission towards your inner feelings, who you want to show love to and respect, who you want to take out your anger upon. Sometimes a son becomes angry with his parent. The parent had perhaps overdone something. وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. It was the command of Almighty Allah. You will go out of your way to serve your parents. وَذِي الْقُرْبَى. Amongst family members there's always fights. There's always arguments. When you get too close to someone, you have to have a problem. So and so has done something to me. I do not want to see him for the rest of my life. وَذِي الْقُرْبَى. But my Allah ordered that for your family there are laws. You will have to see to their needs. وَالْيَتَامَى وَالْمَسَاكِينَ. There is an orphan, he has his own rights. There is the poor person, he has his own rights. You may feel it's your money, why do you have to give to him? Almighty Allah commanded, something became zakat. Almighty Allah encouraged, it became lillah, nafal, charity. وَقُولُوا لِلنَّاسِ حُسْنًا. Someone is very rude to me. I want to respond to him in a rude manner. I want to be vulgar as he was vulgar to me. But my Allah commanded, وَقُولُوا لِلنَّاسِ حُسْنًا. Watch how you speak to people. وَأَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةَ وَآتُوا الزَّكَاةَ. My body, my wealth. No, it's in the command of my Allah. My Allah said, establish salah, I will go up and I will go down. My Allah said, take out the zakat. It is not my money, it is the wealth of my Allah in my hands. Unfortunately, ثُمَّ تَوَلَّيْتُمْ إِلَّا قَلِيلًا مِنْكُمْ. Majority of the Bani Israel, they were not able to live up to this promise that they had taken with Almighty Allah. The reason is they did not see the deen that came to them as a gift. Many of them regarded it as a burden. After it was a burden, whichever difficulties, commands came around this gift would be regarded as a double burden. وَأَنْتُمْ مُعْرِضُونَ. You wanted to kill someone. In killing an individual, there would have been happiness to your heart. He had broken your heart. He had perhaps married the girl you wanted to marry. Perhaps he had done something which now you feel the only way to satisfy the passions of your inside is to spill his blood. وَإِذْ أَخَذْنَا مِيثَاقَكُمْ لَا تَسْفِكُونَ دِمَاءَكُمْ. We took a qasam, a promise from the Bani Israel. You will not be allowed to spill blood whenever you want to. There are people around you. On their blood there are rights. On their wealth there is rights. On their wives and their daughters there are rights. There are rights over your own body upon yourself. There are rights of the environment. All of that is because Islam, the demand of shukr to the gift of my Allah, that He brought for me light in a world of darkness, was whatever now difficulty was going to come around it, we would say it's worth the difficulty. How else can we show our appreciation to Almighty Allah? The Banu Israel were unable to do this. Almighty Allah in the surah, Almighty Allah reprimands them as a message for the ummah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They were unable to live up to what we expected from them. We, the ummah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, are being asked by Almighty Allah that we fulfill this promise. We also have taken a promise with Almighty Allah. The demand of shukr to the gift of deen is Islam. Almighty Allah in this verse, in this juz, in the first juz of the Quran Kareem, Almighty Allah then speaks of Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salatu wassalam. He was one of those individuals whose remarkable quality was his sifat of Islam, how he would submit. In a unique manner, Almighty Allah discusses this, because for many people, the question always arises that if I am a good person, and if I perform my salah, and I do not do wrong, then why do I see difficulties in my life? The meaning of Islam was this: to submit, and the test of submission will be taken. Every person in this world goes through some difficulty. But that person who does not have shukr, who does not feel that I have to show my appreciation to Almighty Allah because of the gift that He has given me, when he finds a difficulty in his life, no matter how small the difficulty, it will make him scream. It will make him irritated. It will make him angry. It will put him in a depression. As for the one who has made his nature Islam, to submit to the will of his Creator, even in difficulties his heart is able to take out a smile. For he understands that if this is what the shukr of the gift that my Allah has given me demands, then indeed it is a very small price to pay. For my Allah has given me the keys to the treasures of the hereafter, a never ever ending world, a world which my every thought will come into the form, which my every desire will be realized, in a world which I'll not be the king of one world, I'll be the king of worlds and worlds. My Almighty Allah in His kindness allowed a key to enter into my heart. In the shukr of that unique key, if I have to go through a few problems, وَإِذِ ابْتَلَىٰ إِبْرَاهِيمَ رَبُّهُ بِكَلِمَاتٍ, Almighty Allah says, remember this. Remember means never forget this. Ibrahim alayhi salam was the Khalil of Allah. He was the friend of Allah. If on account of being close to Almighty Allah, it is demanded that a person must see no difficulties in this world, then Ibrahim alayhi salam indeed would have been on the highest level to make sure no difficulties come in his life. It was the opposite. Being the friend of Almighty Allah means that you are more appreciating of the gift of Allah. According to that level of your shukr, when difficulties come, you understand it's still a very low price to pay for what my Allah has given. وَإِذِ ابْتَلَىٰ إِبْرَاهِيمَ رَبُّهُ, remember the time when the Rabb of Ibrahim took the exam of Ibrahim. Was it only one test? We know the Qurbani, the slaughtering of his son. Almighty Allah says, بِكَلِمَاتٍ. There were many exams that he had to go through. فَأَتَمَّهُنَّ. But how well he fulfilled every exam of his. Allah's Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam was found on the musalla. His feet were swelling. Sahabi radiallahu anh says to him that Almighty Allah has forgiven all your errors, mistakes. What is the need for you now to go through this process? Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam will repeat the same. أَفَلَا أَكُونَ عَبْدًا شَكُورًا. Is it not the demands of my shukr to my Allah, that so much my Allah has given to me? Is this too much to pay for it? The amount that we are paying is very little. It is only that the one who has the eye of shukr, he appreciates what Allah is every day raining upon him. When difficulties come, we don't walk towards difficulty. But when difficulties come, we do not turn like a coward and run away from difficulty. We understand that my Almighty Allah wants to see within me a gift called Islam. When Ibrahim alayhi salatu wassalam stood up to the tests, قَالَ إِنِّي جَاعِلُكَ لِلنَّاسِ إِمَامًا, Almighty Allah would announce, I have made you the leader of mankind. It is in tests that will come to the one who is gifted with the quality of shukr on the gift of Allah. When tests will come to him, as he crosses test after test, he rises rank after rank. قَالَ وَمِن ذُرِّيَّتِي, Ibrahim alayhi salam's mind immediately went to his progeny, like how every great person in this world, enjoying the gift of Almighty Allah, and going through difficulties for the deen of Allah. But when he thinks, he always thinks about his family, his sons, his grandsons, his great-grandsons. Ibrahim alayhi salam immediately asked, Oh Allah, you are making me the leader of mankind, will you make my progeny also? Almighty Allah answered, La yanalu ahdi al-zalimin, that remember my promise does not go to those who are oppressors. What this verse meant is that anyone who got the quality of shukr, and then on that shukr when he finds tests coming in front of him, he stands up to those tests, he crosses those tests, he will be an imam of mankind. It will not be his son who will be the imam. It will not be his grandson who will be the imam. It will not be his wife or his mother who will be the imam. In this game there is no wirathat, there is no inheritance, that if my father was a great sheikh, I will also be a great sheikh. In this field of walking towards Almighty Allah, two qualities are asked. One is a quality of shukr on the gift of Allah, realizing what a gift it was, deen, religion to come, light to come in a world of darkness. And then when difficulties come around this light, when difficulties come around this favor, to be able to stand up to those difficulties, to happily walk through those difficulties, to swim across the waves of those difficulties. As for the one's son, the one's grandson, if they follow on the path of their parents, then they will reach where their parents will reach. Just name and nasab alone on this field will not help a person. Almighty Allah further explains, وَمَن يَرْغَبُ عَن مِّلَّةِ إِبْرَاهِيمَ إِلَّا مَن سَفِهَ نَفْسَهُ. This was the path of Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam. It was shukr on the gift of Almighty Allah. It was standing up to the test that came on the demands of the shukr. وَلَقَدْ اصْطَفَيْنَاهُ فِي الدُّنْيَا. Indeed, we had selected him as a unique man in this world. وَإِنَّهُ فِي الْآخِرَةِ لَمِنَ الصَّالِحِينَ. In the year after, his mantle is well known. وَمَن يَرْغَبُ عَن مِّلَّةِ إِبْرَاهِيمَ. Who will ever now think of walking on a path different from Ibrahim alayhi salam? إِلَّا مَن سَفِهَ نَفْسَهُ. Except that individual who has proven the deficiency in his aql, in his intelligence. Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam's path, the whole world knows it. The Christian knows Abraham, the Jew knows Abraham, the Muslim knows Ibrahim. Three major religions of the world all link themselves up with Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam, the father of the people of paradise. In the high heavens, Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam on the night of Mi'raj will meet Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam in the highest of the heavens. He's a Khalil of Allah, he's a friend of Allah. Everyone respects him, everyone talks about him. Almighty Allah on the tongues of the people of the world put his praise. Everyone knows that. Almighty Allah now indicates, وَمَن يَرْغَبُ عَن مِّلَّةِ إِبْرَاهِيمَ. Why will it not be that another person who comes later, who speaks so well of Ibrahim alayhi salam, who speaks in honor about the great exams that he went, when the Qurbani, when Bakri Eid comes, then every masjid is having a bayan, how he was ready to take that knife, how he put it on the throat of his son, with great honor the Qurbani is made. When we go for the Hajj, Safa and Marwa, then we speak about the Zamzam, we speak about the family of Ibrahim alayhi salam, we speak about Ismail alayhi salam, then we see the mighty Kaaba, we see people making tawaf around it. We think of the time when Ibrahim alayhi salam was all alone in the world, where he said to his nephew Nabi Lut alayhi salam, that besides me and you, meaning him, Lut alayhi salam, the family of Ibrahim alayhi salam, besides that small group, he said on the surface of the earth, who is there worshipping Almighty Allah? All alone. He had to leave his family, he had to leave his father, he was abused, he was taunted. How he walked through the deserts, exam after exam, everyone speaks about it. But when we speak about it, no one says how sad, how unfortunate. Everyone says what a great Ibrahim, how he went through those exams. When we know the path was that he became, or his uniqueness shone more in the world as he walked through exam after exam. Why is it that we are not ready to walk on that path also? وَمَن يَرْغَبُ عَن مِّلَّةِ إِبْرَاهِيمَ. Who will ever decide to choose another path but the path of Ibrahim alayhi salam? إِذْ قَالَ لَهُ رَبُّهُ أَسْلِمْ. What was his path? His path was this, that when his Rabb, his Allah said to him, Aslim, submit. قَالَ أَسْلَمْتُ لِرَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ. He said, I submit for Allah. This is this Islam that we are being asked. The Bani Israel could not live up to this thing. They could not see the favor that had reached them. There was going to be no shukr, what a gift. Rather it was a burden. Wallah, Islam is not a burden for anyone. Salah is not a burden. Zakat is not a burden. But the one who does not appreciate light in the era of darkness, then that person will find it to be a burden. He will not be able to say, Aslamtu li Rabbil Alameen. May Almighty Allah bless us all that we are able to say this. I have submitted. وَوَصَّى بِهَا إِبْرَاهِيمُ بَنِيهِ. Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam was asked by Almighty Allah, submit. He said, I submit. Then Ibrahim alayhi salam made wasiyat, the parting advices he gave to his son, Nabi Ismail alayhi salam, Nabi Ishaq alayhi salam. He said to them, O my sons, submit to the will of Allah. Wa Yaqubu, then Nabi Yaqub alayhi salam would give his sons, Nabi Yusuf alayhi salam and the other brothers, what we today call the Banu Israel, he would give them the same advice, submit to the will of Allah. He said, Ya Baniya inna Allah astafa lakum ad-deen. O my beloved children, remember deen has not come to you as a burden. Almighty Allah has selected it for you. It is a gift that He has put in front of you. فَلَا تَمُوتُنَّ إِلَّا وَأَنْتُمْ مُسْلِمُونَ. Let it not be that death has to come upon you, except that it comes and you have the quality of Islam, that you submitted fully to the will of Almighty Allah. That very wasiyat was given now to the ummah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Nabi Yaqub alayhi salatu wasalam asked his entire progeny. Majority of them could not live up to the demands of this Islam. Finally, the curse of Almighty Allah fell upon. One group became maghdub alayhim, another group became ad-dallin. The knowledge of the path had reached them, but shukr on the gift of deen and the being ready for Islam to submit, they were missing these two. Without these two qualities, treading the path of Sirat-e-Mustaqim, crossing over the Sirat, passing over Jahannam, and entering into paradise, living in the happiness of Allah, dying in the happiness of Allah, being resurrected in the happiness of Allah, being an Ibrahim of the era, being an Imam of the time, it comes with these two qualities. Recognizing, making shukr of the gift of deen, and then for the demand of the shukr to be ready to submit to the will of Allah, Islam. May Almighty Allah, in the barakah of Quran, bless us all with this quality of Islam and shukr on the gift of deen. Wa akhiru da'wana anil hamdulillahi rabbil alameen.